Hello, everyone. Europe is going to go down and it's going to drag the entire world economy down with it. My name is David Ruff, and we're going to be talking about all these stories today to help you know how to get through this crazy world, try not and lose as much, and maybe, if you're lucky, maybe make some money off of it. Let's try and help you as first and foremost, try to protect your home where you live. Now, let's get into a couple of the stories of the day, you guys. We're going to jump into the very first story that I have for you, and it's you really don't understand how bad it could get in Europe this year. Now, this is an article I want you to look at in fortune.com. If you continue down, I just highlighted a couple areas. You could look at this article later. A couple areas that I want you to pay attention to later on. It says Western nations that once relied on energy supplies from Russia. It's the world's second largest natural gas producer, third largest petroleum producer. It has now not taking any Russian energy. Okay, they were completely cut off. Now, they have had a long-standing bet that they could continue to have cheap power from Russia, and now that has backfired. 40% of their natural gas comes from Russia, and now they don't have it anymore. So the cost is going to continue to go up and up and up. Electricity bills have tripled in many places. Our family that lives in the Netherlands are paying triple, quadruple the prices. As an example, it says some coffee shops were paying £2,000 for electricity and are now having to pay £7,000. Prices are absolutely bananas. And so what are they doing? They are going crazy with some bananas proposals right now to try to take over some things. Now look at this. It says it's going to be shutting down coal plants. Unbelievable. They're going to be reopening these coal plants. Can you believe that they're even going to be doing that with all the environmental things right now? They're also going to be taking over and restarting some of the nuclear plants. Also unbelievable. Third thing they're going to be doing is they're going to be going in and nationalizing the electric power grid. So what does that mean? They cannot afford it otherwise. The companies will go bankrupt. So if they go and nationalize the utility companies, that means they have to print a lot more money. They have to start pulling in public funds to save those companies to make sure that we have electricity. But that causes a lot more money printing, which you know and I know what that means. More inflation is going to be coming. All right, let's go back to the article, you guys. Again, go to fortune.com to read that article. Europe's manufacturing industry is heading to shut down. And you guys know that Germany is the king of all of that. And so if their power, meaning their natural gas and their electricity, is so expensive, they will not be able to produce any of the things that we're used to. So this is going to drag the rest of Europe into some very dangerous territory. On top of having no food, on top of having no electricity, now they're going to be losing their jobs as well in an environment where there's going to have to be a lot of money printing to keep going. So this is going to drag down a lot of the world because we're so intertwined now. This can cause some serious problems. Okay, so let's go to my second article I wanted to show you. Please go to visualcapitalist.com. And if you look at that, you're going to see all of the different oils that are being made by the entire world. Now, they're measuring this in British thermal units. So they're just showing you about how much oil is made. And if we look at it, the chart just explodes continually outward and outward like a pyramid, right? There is so much oil being made. Now, United States is very stable in how much oil that they have been making over the years. China has exploded upward, but remember, China imports so much oil because they cannot produce enough for themselves. We can also see a massive surge in Russian oil and natural gas, huge. And now that that entire block is going to be cut off the world supply, we're going to be into some serious, serious trouble. Where I live in Canada, it's a very, very small amount of oil that comes from Canada. But the big players are the United States, China, and Russia. And they are going to be dominating what we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years. Especially if Russia pulls away, we're going to be into some trouble. What kind of trouble? If we go to the article, westernstandard.news, we're going to see there was an interview here with the former Bank of Canada, David Dodge, he was the governor, and he said a recession is imminent. What does he say? Dodge is faulting his successors at the Bank of Canada for giving forecasts that are not very helpful, because every time they speak, they just go, well, things are not so bad. Don't worry. We're gonna be on top of them. No need to panic, guys. We have everything under control. Okay, so he continues. National Bank yesterday faulted um, the bank, National Bank, faulted the Bank of Canada executives for giving bad advice. In the 2020, central banks, not only Canada, mentioned interest rates would remain low for a while. As a result, a lot of people bought homes on variable rates. Now, this is something that is kind of uniquely Canadian, you guys. Um, because in Canada, in Australia, have some of the most indebted, leveraged markets for real estate on the planet, and all of them are variable rates. Now, I live in Canada, so when we say a fixed rate mortgage, it generally means that we have a fixed rate for 3 years or 5 years. Imagine we're right close to the United States, where their most popular product is a 30-year fixed rate. So in Canada, no matter what, we're going to have to be refixing it every couple of years, right? 3 years, 5 years, 1 year, it really depends. But if we're having to refix those rates so many times, maybe it's not really as stable as you think. So all these people in the past several years that refinanced down to 1%, 2%, now when they go to refinance or renegotiate their mortgage back at a 7%, who knows where it's going to be, then that will bankrupt them. They will not be able to support those payments. So what is lying, that wolf in sheep's wool is happening? It's just down the road. Now, I don't know the exact day, but we already know that season that people will not be able to afford those prices for sure. So where is that going to leave us? In really bad spots. Now it's going to come to Australia and Canada first. Now let's continue with this standard. He was making fun of the Bank of Canada, saying, you know what? Inflation will be transitory. Whoops. Unbelievable. So, this is what the governor, David Dodge, was saying. All right, if we continue, it's not just the governors. Alphabet. So this is the guy from Google, the CEO, the parent company of Google and YouTube, is preparing for a sharp deterioration in the health of the economy. Please go look at the article on thestreet.com, thestreet.com, for you to check this out. All right, let's look at this article. This is the head of Google. Now, Google probably, arguably, has more information than the actual government does. Google, you have a conversation in your home and you're talking about kitty litter, and then all of a sudden, all the ads on your phone are popping up are about kitty litter. They know everything, right? Way more than what the government knows. So they're having some serious concern. He writes in the article, growth will have an impact on advertising revenues, which is its main source of income. Of course, if all the companies are shutting down, they're not going to have the money to pay for advertising. All right. He continues on a little bit below that the more that they're learning about the macro environment, the more danger they are. Let's get to that in a second. Google says he just canceled the next version of the Pixelbook laptop, dissolved the team responsible for building it. They know that something really bad is happening. The company has also made cuts in its tech incubator. It shut that down as well. He's telling his entire company, prepare minds for possible layoffs to come. He wrote, and this is the sentence I think is very important: the more we try to understand the macroeconomy, we feel more uncertain about it. And they need to make the company 20% more productive in order to survive. This is big news from a massive company that has more information than anybody. I mean, if you are not paying attention to these massive companies like Facebook, like Google, that are telling you that there's a massive financial hit coming and no one's paying attention. The central banks are telling us, even companies like Jamie Dimon, Bill Ackman, or Michael Burry are all telling us massive collapses are on their way. So listen, if these genius guys are telling us all of this and it's all in unison and we're walking around, just like, wow, it's a beautiful sunny day today. I mean, we're going to get smooshed, right? I don't want anyone to get smooshed, but listen, if those guys don't want to do anything and they're going to lose their house, I'm happy to go buy it for 50 cents on the dollar. No problem. All right, so let's jump back in to the next article I have for you. Now, this is the U.S. Federal Reserve. It's tightening the monetary policy and it's impacting Australian households. Now, why are we going to be talking about Australia? It's because Australia is very similar to Canada. They're, let's call them like twin brothers almost on the world stage. There's a lot of differences, but they're really, really close. They too have like 5-year fixed rate mortgages. They don't have the 30-year like they do in the United States. So I'm expecting to start to see 40-year mortgages come out to try to make things more applicable, more savings on people. Because what else are they going to do? They're trying to quash demand, and I can expect them to go to 40-year mortgages. But let's see. So this is going to say how it's going to affect Australia. But this is why I'm saying everything is so intertwined. It says pressure on the Reserve Bank is growing because of the wider the interest rate differential or gap between the US and Australian dollar, the more downward pressure on the US dollar and the more upward pressure on inflation. Okay, so that sounds kind of complicated, right? Sounds very complicated, but listen, the banks love it when the interest rates go up because in their minds, right, they can pay more interest, they can afford it. It makes the dollar, the US dollar, more strong on the world stage. As the US dollar becomes stronger, that means all the other currencies are weaker. So if the US dollar becomes very strong and the Australian dollar is down and they try to buy anything from the United States, it's more expensive for them. And it will keep on that separation. So when the US raises their interest rates, that's why Canada, Australia are trying to raise it with them to try to not get crushed by inflation, right? We're facing a lot of different fronts, right? This isn't like one military facing another one in an open field. We're getting attacked from a lot of different directions. And so Australia is the canary in the coal mine, very similar to what's going to be happening in Canada. But if we go to one of the, I think, dangerous suggestions is this one. Corporate greed, not wages, is behind inflation. It's time for price controls. Now, do you guys know what price controls is? Number one, price controls is when the government mandates a law saying that bread cannot cost more than $1.50 a loaf, period. Okay. The government sets the price. The price is what it is. Now, if you notice this article is written by an awesome dude, okay? His name is Robert Reich. Robert Reich was the Secretary of Labor for Bill Clinton. Remember good old Billy Boy back in the day? Amazing guy. He has a really couple good sets of videos, documentaries online where I think it was called Inequality for All. And they're talking about that bridge between the poor and the ultra rich. And when it gets very exasperated, like right to the very end, where there's only a few rich people and a huge poor class, most societies break apart. So most of his policies are to keep a robust middle class. But here's the problem with price controls. Just follow me through. Then we're going to get in the article, okay? Because this is what he's suggesting. If we do have price controls and they lock the price in for bread at $1.50, the farmer is going to say, I can't make it for $1.50. Forget it. I'll stop even making any because it's going to cost me $3 per loaf to make a loaf of bread. I can't work at a loss. So he'll shut his plant down. But then the government comes to him and says, listen, buddy, we need the bread. Everyone needs to eat. You can't just shut it off. Okay, let's do a deal. The government will give you $1.50 and the public can pay $1.50, so we'll subsidize the bread so that you can get bread anyway. Where does the $1.50 that the government gets to pay them come from? They print it out of thin air. They invent the money, and that creates more inflation. So by the subsidy, they're creating even more inflation, which was the problem to begin with. It's this like doom loop, okay, that happens on price controls. If you want to look at the history of it, it's been around forever, for hundreds of years. Please do some research on it. Every time that they've had these governments step in with more regulation, price fixing, it ends up in disaster. So I'm going to leave that homework for you for later. But let's continue with Robert Reich. He's very cool. Corporations are making more money than ever. But I do have one thing I really like in this article. I'll show you. He mentions the companies are blaming tight labor markets, and they're causing wages to rise, and prices have to go up because of that. So they're blaming people and their jobs for inflation. But he says wage increases have not kept up with inflation. Very true. Paychecks are shrinking in terms of real purchasing power. So this is the difference: is what happens if you got a 2% raise this year, but we know that food is 10% more expensive and fuel is 10% more expensive. That means I'm backwards 8%. I lost 8. If I gained 2% and lost 10, I'm backwards. My paycheck is not going as far anymore. I'm sure you guys can all see that these days. So let's continue with what he's telling you. We have to look at the purchasing power. That's the main part. We need purchasing power. Why are grocery prices through the roof? He continues, because there are only 4 companies that control 85% of all of the food that comes out to North America. That is a big problem. Only 2 giant firms control the consumer staples. Only 1 company controls the nation's corn. That's a big problem. The airline industry went from 12 companies down to 4. That's a big problem. Wall Street now, instead of having thousands of banks, has 5 mega banks. Big problem. In Canada, we have the top 5 banks and like nothing else. Broadband is only covered by 3 companies in the entire United States. These are problems. Now, his solution: price controls can be a backstop, he mentioned. So that's limiting how much profit these companies can have. The current inflation emerging from the pandemic is analogous to the inflation after the Second World War, when economists advocated temporary price controls to buy time to overcome supply bottlenecks and prevent corporate profiteering. What does this all mean, you guys? So let's break that down. After the Second World War, hundreds of millions of people come home. Everybody needs to buy a house. Everyone needs a car right away. There was a massive supply problem. So they were saying, put temporary price controls, lock the prices in until they had enough time to sort their crap out and build a lot of manufacturing plants so they can like make the food, make the cars, make everything that they needed. But that's always comes back to it. It's always supply and demand. And the whole idea of a government, that's what they're doing today, they cannot overnight create billions of loaves of bread or overnight create a billion cars or housing, like we're always talking about. They can't make hundreds of thousands or millions of homes. What they can do is create trillions of dollars out of thin air overnight, just by an email. So that is what they're doing, right? That's what they were doing for the past several years, creating massive inflation. But what they're doing now is trying to drive people out of the market by jacking up that interest rate. And you and I can see, I'm a broker in Toronto. We're selling homes every day and we're seeing home prices absolutely collapsing. So that's a big, big problem, right? All right, let's jump back into Mr. Robert Reich. By the way, I really like this guy. I just don't think that price fixing is something that works. What he's saying here, did you see, was that they need time to overcome supply bottlenecks. That, to me, is the main key, is how do we get more homes for more people? So we need 1 million homes in Canada, 5 million homes in the United States. Some people say 6 million. We need homes for our people. The idea here, between bankrupting millions of people, putting them on the street living in a cardboard box so we can move the other people in, is crazy town to me. We need more houses for more people. That's what we need. So we got to build more houses. So the path that we're going down, to me, doesn't make any sense. I'm wondering if it makes any sense to you. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, I'd love to know all your thoughts on this stuff, guys. Please leave me a comment below if you like this stuff. We have to be smart as we're going into this world. Inflation is probably going to be with us for several years as we sort out all the bottlenecks of supply, like Robert Reich is pointing out. Instead of depending on European goods, on Chinese goods, based on Russian cheap oil, we're not going to have that anymore, especially as the BRICS countries try to move away. That is going to affect our economies massively. We have to make everything back in North America, which means huge price increases in labor. This could take years to sort out. So the housing problem is probably going to continue for a while. We cannot build houses for a reasonable price right now. Labor is at crazy prices high. In addition, all the materials are double or triple what they were just a couple years ago. To, to go build a starter home now, the price would be astronomical. No builders are going to build it at that price and build at a loss, and we can't depend on the government to do it. We're going to have to let free market capitalism take over and try and solve that for us. We need a lot of property. So if you're in a big property now and they continue to raise those rates, we're actually in big danger of losing a lot of money on those homes. Starter homes is where it's at right now. So if you're in a starter home, it's probably good to stay in it. If you're in a large home, you got to be thinking about maybe selling that and buying it back in a few years at a lot cheaper price. Anyway, you guys, as you know, I'm always here for your health, wealth, and happiness. I want you to do well. I want you to crush it. We're coming up to a time where we're going to have some crazy, awesome deals. Stay safe. If you know anybody that this could help, please send it to one person. It would really help me out. Please remember to like and subscribe and follow to this. It really helps out the channel. We want to get our message out to more people. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you in the next video. All right, you guys, hope that you're having a good day. I'm here to answer a couple questions before I jump off, but if you're on YouTube, please send me a message. Happy to help you out. If you're on TikTok, I'm happy to help you out as well. Pierre Poliev, yeah, man. We're having the entire world that's going down the conservative route, but nobody ever likes the conservative route. They always vote them out of power really quick. Doesn't matter what country. But we're noticing right now, right? If we're going to go down the conservative route, Canada just elected a new conservative leader. But as a national party, it looks like Italy is going to go that way, conservative party. We also just saw in Britain that they elected a conservative party who takes all of her notes from Ronald Reagan from the United States, also from Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, love her, from England. She took the same playbook as she did. And what happens after they put out their mini budget? They're voting to try and get rid of her. The pound sterling has dropped like crazy. The economy dropped like crazy because nobody likes to hear we're got to save money and not live like a drunken sailor anymore. So this is the world that we live in. Everybody needs to hear, all countries need to hear, we need to buckle down, cut on expenses, and pay down our bills. But no party in any country is going to win any election with that. It's never popular. Everyone wants to live like it's free money. The banks are going broke. Electricity is free. Don't know what that means. Sorry, guys. Hey, Nolan, how are you? Canada is one of the largest oil reserves. It goes to the USA. Well, Canada's oil really sucks. Canada's oil is brutal. Canada's oil is like this tar, right? That's why we call it the tar sands. But the oil there has to be like dissolved. I think it's with Varsol or something, piped down to the United States, mixed with some other oils, evaporate off. Very bad for the environment. Trades at a massive discount because we need to be at $90 or $100 a barrel even to make it profitable. Our oil is very dirty oil and very polluting oil. Central bank is going broke, most likely. A lot of central banks will be going broke. The system that Russia created, that's where the other countries are going to join the dollar, is equal. No, it's not going to be equal. No way. It's not possible. Over on YouTube, this is for Bridget. How are you? Any idea if homes in the Florida area are experiencing the same decreases as we're seeing here? So number one, Canada and Australia are going to have worse decreases because we can't lock in rates for 30 years. There is a plethora of people that are out there that were saying, including myself, for November, December, January, February, lock your rates, lowest rates in 5,000 years, lock them. And so a lot of people locked in their rates, which is good because now you're not going to be susceptible to those rate hikes. Florida, though, had so many people move to Florida that the prices went absolutely crazy. So We don't expect the prices to continue on that upward trajectory. But if you're in smaller areas up in the north, maybe like Jacksonville or in the Panhandle, there's still some amazing deals there. The political environment there is very, very pro landlord, pro business, thanks to good old Ronnie. So there looks like, at least for the time being, it's a very safe place to be and continue to buy. Southern Florida, though, still massively overpriced right now. I wouldn't be buying in Southern Florida. Thanks for the question, Bridget. Otis, you said you heard a lot of U.S. realtors saying people are typically fixed interest, so lower home sales now. Yeah, this is like a poison pill in the United States because everyone was saying to fix, and their most popular product is a 30-year fixed rate. And it's been that way for a long time. So these people that bought, say, a 4-bedroom home on a fixed rate for 30 years are now looking at a 1-bedroom condo at a 7% rate and saying, hell no. I can, if I trade my big house for the little one, like my kids finally moved out, it's time for me to downsize. For them to downsize, the payment would be the same because now it's a lot smaller property, right? Might go from $1 million down to 300,000, but now it's 7% for the unit here. The price would be the same on their monthly payment. So this is going to lock millions of people from ever moving because the home is no longer the asset. It's the loan that's the asset. So people aren't going to be moving anymore. This is wait, where is it? I had my 100-ounce silver bar. Someone's asking me about my 100-ounce silver bar. This is for TikTok. These are the 100-ounce silver bars I think you should be buying. This is from the Royal Canadian Mint. If you want a 100-ounce silver bar, the company I use is in my bio here. I've been using them for 15 years. I've tested all of their metals. So how you test a bar is you buy a magnet and put it on. It should slide very slowly. Look. See that? It doesn't stick like it would on steel. It's very, very, very slow. And then it will fall off. It doesn't really stick to it. If you take a 1-ounce coin, there's some other tests, but they're like $2,000. It'll just stick very, very, very slightly. But if you ever took like a steel coin, it would stick like crazy. So just go to the link in my bio, and if you go to the link in my bio, you'll see where we buy it. Montreal services. We've been online for about half an hour. We're talking about the problems in Europe and how it's going to affect Canada and the United States. Well, pretty much the world, but whatever's going to be happening in Europe, it's going to happen first in Europe to manufacturing, unemployment. We've already seen the crash of the euro, but the problem with the housing is going to probably start in Australia and Canada. We are the most over leveraged, and we can only lock in our rates generally for 5 years. Yes, I get all kinds of comments that in Canada, it is available to have a 10-year fixed rate. It is possible, but we don't get them very often. Most people don't get approved for them. All right, you guys. Hopefully I answered your questions. I got to prepare. I got to do another couple videos, but any other questions before I jump off? I'll give you a couple of seconds. If you can think of any other questions, please go and you can look at that link for my silver. That's where I get my silver. Also, you guys, if you want, we are developing a couple courses and a couple books. If you go to the link in my bio, it should be there, or just send me an email and write contact at Rough Team Realty. So Rough Team Realty is my name of my channel, contact at Rough Team Realty, and just write in there what your preference is. Write book in the subject line or write course in the subject line, and we'll put you on the wait list. Is it worth to buy US dollars? I'm not doing that right now. I'm not buying any US dollars, but I am buying US securities. I don't buy US dollars. Otis, yeah, do I drink coffee? Sure do. Probably too much. I generally drink an entire pot of coffee every morning. Hey guys, I sold another house last night. Can you imagine? We put out 150,000 ads online. We got 25 showings in our first day. We sold it for way over what they were expecting. We sold it in one day, over what they were expecting. 3-week close, no conditions. Pretty awesome, right? But that made us stay up until 2 a.m. Yeah. Me and my wife, she's my assistant. How many ads? Well, it was about 150,000 ads that we bought. A lot. Otis, why do you ask if I drink coffee? Is it because I'm too hyper? I never drank coffee past 10 a.m. So whatever it is, this is just a natural stress, I guess. All right, you guys. I wish you the very, very best. I hope that you have a good night. I have another one of these to do. If you guys want to come on, I just got to change up my system and I should be back on in a little while. Okay. All right, you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night. Yeah, Otis, I love coffee, unfortunately. Have a good night. See ya. Thank you, YouTube. Thanks for coming on.